Guys, welcome to the Filmmaker Agency podcast. This is our first episode shooting in the beautiful Studio Miami 20. And we are here with Dylan Coleman. And talk to us a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you come from.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. Really honored to be part of the agency, part of this first podcast. I'm really excited to be here. I'm a content creator, but I'm also, have a full-time job as a creative in a internal marketing agency at an e-commerce company. But on a day-to-day, I'm working on developing any number of projects and taking them through the different stages. So I may be directing a project one day while trying to guide scripts and concepts through approval to get to the pre-production phase. I may be taking some edits through post-production.
So do you work with a team of people?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And what does that team usually consist of?
I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of talented people at the place I work. We have production designers. We have a fully built out art department. We have a video production department that's, made up of elite cinematographer. We have a very robust post-production department with motion graphics artists, editors, audio post engineers. We have a colorist, visual effects, retouching. And then we also have very built out production. We have producers, we have project managers, we have all of that on both the video and photography side. So it's a very well built out team.
What I think is unique about you, most of YouTubers, I would say, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I would say most of YouTubers are coming from learning from YouTube, but they don't have that experience of working with an entire team in a big robust studio and a huge production department and stuff like that. What I've come across is that most YouTubers learn from YouTube. Maybe they did a little bit of film school. Most of them quit film school, went to YouTube, went to content creation, and kind of cut their teeth getting freelance gigs here and there, and never really having that full experience of being able to direct and work with a whole team of people. What was really cool and fascinating about bringing you on to the agency was the fact that you have experience that's not really normal on YouTube. I feel like your experience and your expertise offers a different kind of skill set.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Different window.
It's a different window.
Yeah.
Because if we compare and contrast the two of us, I came from music, a music background, and then I came from, hopping into videography and trying to just get freelance jobs and learning from failing, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And never really even still to this day, I haven't really directed a huge robust production. But I have directed skeleton crew kind of stuff where you have I'm playing the role of cinematographer and director, you know what I mean? But I have PAs, I have gaffers, I have grips, but never on your level. So I think that it's really cool, and I want to dive into a little bit of what it is that you do and how that kind of works. Because I do feel like a lot of people that watch my channel or a lot of people that watch a lot of channels don't really get to see that side of things, don't really get to see the bigger production side of things.
It's a very interesting point you make because, we kind of have come from opposite spectrums, and, it's not something I've thought about a lot, but, and I think coming from the opposite end, like you described, kind of having to fill all those roles yourself from the very beginning, maybe not having worked on big teams or anything like that. That's just a different skill set that you come up with that I'm trying to transition into right now, right? So it's been a struggle for me to move from always having a team, always having other professionals to lean on, their expertise to fill in the blanks where my vision ends, right? Because as a director, you try to have a handle on all the different departments, but, you can't be an expert at everything. You know what I mean? And, my weak points are production design, and it used to be, planning. I could think about action and how I wanted things to look, but, what are the colors in that scene? What are the props that really bring out the character or the emotion of a scene? That's when I've always leaned on the expertise of others. But when you're a YouTuber, you got to make all those decisions yourself, right? So it's for me, that's the greatest challenge moving into content creation. But that's also, getting back to what your question was, my favorite part of being on those large teams like that is having other people take your vision and run with it. It takes a little getting used to let go, first of all. That was one of my biggest challenges because, like I said, I started as an editor. I started as a video editor, interpreting and creating with footage that had been brought to me, and I've always been loved that part of it, so that's why I wanted to become a director. But my greatest challenge as a director is just letting go, and trusting other people to take the information you give them, giving them just enough to understand what they need to do, and then making it something great based on the skills and expertise that they have. And I think that's what's special about working on a team. That's what you don't get from being a solo creator, or even working on small crews, where still people are wearing a lot of different hats.
I don't wear a lot of different hats. I walk around with a hat rack, like a hat rack.
I was going to say you wear all the hats.
Yeah. A lot of the times I'll step on set, and it'll be a small crew. Even the stuff that me and Lewis, by the way, Lewis right here is my right-hand guy. We have produced projects for Karate Combat where we're hiring, pretty much freelance videographers to wear multiple hats on set. It's rare that I get something above $20,000, $30,000 budgets and stuff like that. So for me, it's like, okay, well, how do I make that work? You know what I mean? So it's a different mindset of like, we have to make high quality content with very, very little. And how do we do that? Well, okay, you have to worry about X, Y, and Z. And I know that you're not an expert in any of these things, but don't worry, lean on what I'm telling you to do, because I do have experience doing all of these different fight shows and all these, different fight documentaries. But I feel sometimes like a little bit like, holy shit, like I need somebody to lean on to ask for advice, because I don't have all the answers in this particular moment. And am I making the right decision right now? Am I saying the best thing to do? And I know that there's like, when you are wearing many hats, it's almost like something is not going to look as good as it possibly can.
That's the benefit of having other people involved. You know what I mean? And what you just said is an interesting, like you want it to be the best that it can be. And sometimes you realize you just don't have the expertise to take it that far in certain areas, right?
And it's so frustrating.
And so it's like, it is frustrating. And especially it's like, it could be better, but you don't know how to get it there. But, at the same time, you facing the situation helps you find that out about yourself. It's like, oh, this is where I'm deficient. So
the one thing I'm learning as I'm growing and as I'm building everything, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but because it's almost like we're reversed, right? Like you're trying to figure out how to do things solo, but I'm trying to figure out how to work and integrate more of a team into my work. I'm trying to work with cinematographers. I'm trying to work with graphic designers. I'm trying to work with a whole team of people to bring a vision together. And I was just telling my wife this the other day, like every time I hire a designer, I'm always like extremely disappointed. No, seriously, it's like the worst thing in the world for me when I get back those designs. Like I have a pit in my stomach. I'm like, oh my God.
And what do you think that is? Is it because you can't communicate? Is it hard articulating what you have in your head in the terms that, So here's the thing. I'm used to having an idea and doing everything myself. And like, I almost feel like, dude, don't even touch it. Like, I know you're not going to do what I want you to do. So just get out of the way. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that is a toxic mindset. Yeah. That is not a good mindset. Yeah. So I hired a designer just recently. And I was like, it was for the agency logo. And he got back a bunch of different logos. And he's laughing because he knows. He knows. But I get back a bunch of different logos. And I'm paying the guy. Yeah. And I'm paying his rates or whatever. And I'm like, holy shit, I don't like any of them. Like, and we go through another round. And I'm like, I don't like any of them. I take a design and I'm like, I sit there and I start drawing. I don't know anything about graphic design, dude. Right. But like I'm sitting there drawing and I'm like, this is what I want. I want exactly this. And I'm like, okay, I have to be able to communicate this vision. Like, what am I doing right now? Yeah. I'm not a designer, dude. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I need to be able to say, hey, here's this vision. Here's this idea. We ended up figuring out that project. I pretty much designed the logo myself. I ended up designing it myself. But we went to another company that I'm working on and we started designing another logo. I told myself, do not, no matter what happens, use your words and learn how to communicate your vision. And I spent time. I put together a whole mood board. I really dedicated the time to give him all the tools he needed. Guess what happened? You got what you wanted.
I got exactly what I wanted, and it was better than what I thought that I even wanted.
See? It's like case in point right there, though, because it took that experience of you not getting what you wanted to realize that you were deficient in a certain area. In this case, being able to communicate your ideas. I've been in that spot. You know what I mean? I've only been on the creative side in the corporate world for the last 3 years. And one of the biggest challenges I had was the exact same thing you're talking about. Especially coming from post-production, talking to editors, talking to post people, wanting to just push them out of the way and get in front of the keyboard myself. But you realize you don't build a team that way. You don't build a rapport. You don't get everybody's buy-in because people don't want to be told what to do. They want to make your project good. and they know how to do it. You know what I mean? You just have to be able to get them there with I said it before, it's like the least amount of information they need to get their job done, and then for them to feel like they've brought something creatively to it as well. So that's, you know what I mean? Like that's a skill. That's a skill you have to learn. And it's like something that you have to be put in a situation where it's a problem for you before you realize you have to learn it. You know?
Exactly. And, I wanted to ask you a quick question because I came from the world of music, and then I transitioned to editing first. That's before I picked up a camera, I started editing. Because I'm so detail oriented with the edit and I know exactly what I want to see, it's very hard for me to let go. So I wanted to ask you, you come from the world of editing, and
yes.
and if you can, describe where you come from, because
Sure.
I want to know a little bit more about like how you started and where you worked and where you edited.
Sure. I shot a lot of docu-style broadcast reality TV shows. The most I learned at Accord was through editing those shows. So we made 23-minute exactly. It had these shows were made up of A stories, B stories, C stories, hours of footage, and it was me and one other editor. We'd whittle down footage for weeks just to get one perfectly edited show, and I'll give all credit to my post-production supervisor at the time. We would work on these 1-minute segments, 90 seconds, and have to mold a complete story about it and get our points across. And it was there that I started to learn all the problem solving that you're talking about, taking any amount of footage and making stuff good from it. And that's when I really decided I wanted to focus on editing. Like you said, trying to make something good out of it no matter what, because the solution is there somewhere, right? And I think it's such a great base or a great place to start, because if you can understand what's needed to make something good, then it's like you approach capturing that from a whole different angle every single time.
I always say to anyone that asks me questions, because I get a lot of questions from my YouTube channel, or people will DM me and they're like, I'm trying to get into filmmaking. What should I do? Don't buy a camera first.
Right.
Go invest your money in a computer, start editing, become a freelance editor, and cut your teeth really editing.
Yeah.
And just like you said, how the story needs to be told.
Yeah.
You start to understand, like, okay, I need a different camera angle.
Right.
How many times were you like looking at something and you're like, okay, the puzzle pieces are all here. I need to put this puzzle piece together, but I'm missing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And I know that because I can't tell the story right now.
Yeah.
So it's like the most valuable thing that I think any filmmaker or director could do is go out and start editing first.
And not only like will you see what you're missing, but you'll see what you have too much of. It's like when you're out in the field, you think, oh, I need all this coverage or these establishing shots or these interesting angles. And then when you get to the edit, you're like, look, I only used half a second of that one angle. How many hours did I spend waiting for the sun to be in that right position? Or, because I thought that this was the most important shot of the whole project. You learn where to focus too, and just back to how important editing is, without the experience I had editing those shows, I wouldn't be the filmmaker I am today. And it's still my favorite part of the process, but it's also, like we've been saying, it's the hardest part for me to let go, because I think, well, no one else is going to be able to edit like me. No one else is going to be able to do it the way I want. You know what I mean? And it's like, even after me learning this lesson in so many other areas, I think I still have a long way to go in terms of letting go of the editing process.
I'm not even going to lie to you. I've never hired an editor that I was actually super happy with. Like I've never been able. No, honestly, and it sucks. It really sucks. Like I feel like
It kind of hurts me.
No.
That kind of hurts me.
No, not Lewis.
He's sitting right
so
there.
so Lewis is in serious development mode. You started like a year ago. Excluding you and talking about you, I've hired editors that I've paid a lot of money to.
Yeah.
And I get back to the edit and I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like you totally missed it. But then again, and I'm going to ask you a question right now. How do you let go? How do you work on not touching the edit? Because
Right.
it's so hard, right? Like,
So that, as I mentioned before, that's been a big challenge for me, especially in my 9-to-5. Every editor is different, and you kind of have to know who you're working with, and know what their strengths are, But you also have to be very clear about what you expect to see. You know what I mean? Pacing. What is a bad edit to you? You know what I mean? And oftentimes it doesn't come beforehand. You have to just let people do what they're going to do. But then, and this is a character and a professionalism thing. Like, if people aren't good at taking notes, they're not good at taking notes. So it's like not every match is going to be a match made in heaven. So sometimes relationships don't work out. But if you find somebody you do jive with, who you know is skilled, you just got to work with them. And I think it's a matter of being patient, knowing that it's a process. Because even the editors I work with, it's like you could be frustrated sometimes by the first edits you see. But if you give people a chance, you'd be like, hey, this is what I need fixed. And a lot of people who are genuinely interested in helping you make the thing the best it can be, they will get there. You know what I mean? They'll listen intently, and then they'll take it a step further. Like, okay, if they said that they didn't like the speed of this editing, or I'm cutting right when a person's mouth is opening, oh, you know what? Maybe I should do a pass of the whole edit and make sure all the other edits aren't like that. If he likes it this way in terms of how we build a scene, maybe if we're trying to slow the pacing back down, this is how he'd like to deconstruct it. Like, the good editors will take those leaps, and those are the people you want to maintain relationships with. But it's patience, it's care, especially with people who have the drive and desire to be better. That is worth more than raw talent, because like you said, anybody can learn that, and people learn fast.
I agree with you 1,000%. I take hard work, humility, and just the willingness to learn over talent any day.
Yeah.
If you work with somebody, especially if you're hiring somebody and you're paying them like whatever their rate is,
Yeah.
and it comes back and it's bad, man, I get so demoralized because I'm like, I literally could have just done it better
Correct.
and faster myself. Mm-hmm. Why am I paying for this right now? But what you said, it's a skill set that you have to learn as a filmmaker, as a director, because you can't do everything yourself.
Right.
You have to build a team. You have to be able to have a vision and give people your vision and work with them. We talked about all the pros of having a team, because there's a lot, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
But I do want to touch on some of the cons.
Sure.
Because I think when you do have a bigger team and a bigger production, things take a lot longer. And not only things take a lot longer, but sometimes the vision gets lost because there's too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I've been in projects with corporate companies. Like, I shot for corporate clients and like
We know all about it, yeah.
short docs and stuff like that. And by the time we get to the final edit, it's like a Frankenstein cut, man. It is so bad because not only does the marketing team and the creative team have to get involved from that company, but then all the VPs and then once those people start touching it and getting involved, it feels like, okay, this is done. And no longer is it about like making the best thing. It's about just pleasing them and just getting the project out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So talk to me about how you manage the creative vision and what you have versus like what you have to do to appease so many different people.
I think for me, the negative parts of working on big teams, especially in a corporate environment, comes down to compromise. You sometimes have to compromise, what you want, because there's someone higher above you saying, nope, it should be this way. And then maybe they don't, maybe they're not close to the project. Maybe they don't have the background in filmmaking or creativity the way that you do. So it's not going to end up the way they want. And then, of course, since nobody's built trust along the way, everybody has to get their 2 cents in on how to best do that. And you end up with something that feels, not only looks and sounds, but feels patched together.
And disjointed.
Yeah, and disjointed. So there are a lot of times where vision takes a back seat.
Speaking of vision, really quick, what did you think of Doom 2?
Dude, man, I watched it again last night. I saw it in the theater in IMAX. It's a masterpiece. It's honestly, I think, one of the best sci-fi films I've ever seen, if not the best. It might be one of the best films, period, that I've ever seen. And it's because that tone, that vision, which was clear from the first frame of the first movie, was amplified and capitalized on every moment of, every second of that film. I can't get over the imagery. I can't get over the acting, and I can't, the production design, the color, everything that works so well together in harmony. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about vision. It's like, it's clear who made that. I think you could show me that, film not knowing who made it, and I could be like, that's a Denis Villeneuve film. You could show me Arrival, you can show me Blade Runner 2049. That guy's work you can spot from a mile away. And same thing with Greg Fraser too, and the other people that are involved in those things. Like, that's, I think, the real amazing part of it. Like, even though it's a Denis Villeneuve film, you can see the footprint of all those other fantastic creators on there as well. Like, he lets people shine in their own right. He lets people do the best work under his guide, all under the objective.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When I watched that movie in the theater, there was a couple of scenes in there where not only did I get the chills, but it reignited this fire in me.
It's inspiring, dude.
That I was like, okay, what they just accomplished not only was the coolest thing that I've ever seen, and one of the best, hands down, forget sci-fi, like just like a masterpiece of a film from top to bottom, every single level of where you look at that film, sound design, art direction, the fabrics of the clothing that they used. You could just tell the vision was so strong and well thought out and delivered through every single department of that movie.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, like this is the bar that I want to try to achieve. Like this is it. This is the pinnacle, and this is where I want to go. And that's why, you know, I was sitting there and I was like, man, like I forgot exactly when we started this agency. Really, the real driving force behind this agency was to be able to band together with a bunch of creatives from YouTube, because I truly believe that the future of filmmaking doesn't just come from studios.
Yeah.
I believe that the future of filmmaking is content creator, YouTubers that have a strong vision, that have this idea. I mean, if you look at Danny Gewurz and what he's able to accomplish, is not only inspiring, but it's game changing. And what that opened my eyes to and made me realize is that, okay, we could take the power back in the sense of like, we don't need big studios to make these films.
No.
We could band together somehow, get the funding that we need to work on projects together and make beautiful things. Yeah. Because with the technology and everything that we have these days, we don't need $100 million budgets. Like, let's be real. Like, we're putting all this money into these things because there's a lot of people that make a lot of money off this thing that aren't even touching the film. Yeah. But if you give it to the creators and you give the power to the creators to make something like that, that was like one of the main driving forces behind this agency. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, I started connecting dots and I was like, if we could band together, we could touch that. Yeah. We could touch greatness like that.
And that's
why
the thing,
couldn't we?
Yeah, that's the thing that attracted me about, when you approached me about the Filmmaker agency, like that's what attracted me about it, you know? And we've been talking about teams and what we love so much about Dune 2 and other movies like that, you know, and if you listen to people who are involved in that movie talk about it, it's about the relationships. It's about the community that Denis and other directors like him create when they set out to make these films. And it's like Filmmaker agency, you know, to me, it stands to be a strong, incredible community of like-minded, passionate people. And that's all you need to make something great. You know what I mean? So like, that's the thing that drew me to it. And I think, you know, you're doing it, man.
I can't even tell you how incredibly excited I am. We signed somebody, his name's Josh Miller, and I'm probably going to put him on the podcast like as soon as possible. But, you know, we had a conversation and now we're like chatting back and forth and we're talking about working together and we're talking about like different possibilities and what we can do. And to me, that's exactly the whole point of all this. Now, don't get me wrong, like YouTube is incredible because it does give creators the opportunity to create for themselves. And I don't know if you've ever gone through this, but like as my YouTube channel is growing and I get sponsorships, every now and then you'll have like a couple of people like jump on there being like, oh, this is just sponsored. Like any credibility that you had is completely lost because this is a sponsored video. And while I look at that and again, coming back down to like the core of why we started this agency, when I look at that, I just like, I want to tell them like, brother, you just don't know. Like you just don't know what this whole thing is about. Right. Because we're able to give you free content. We're able to show you things that you have to go to a university to learn, that you no longer have to do anymore, that you could get for free at your home, sitting and learning at your own time for nothing, spending $0. Yeah. Someone has to pay for that.
I was going to say, they enable us to do these things. Like these things take time, you know what I mean? And yes, I have experienced that, you know what I mean? Like I've only done a couple sponsored ads, but the last one I did something for Frameset. And you know, usually an integration, it can be like a 10-second tag on at the end or in the middle. I decided to do like a full minute, you know, breakdown of this thing. It was a 12-minute video, but I had people come out and be like, oh, this video is all, the whole thing's a commercial, the whole thing's promotion. And luckily, you know, the good thing about, we talk about community again, you know, because I don't like to respond to those people sometimes, you know what I mean? And I made that mistake earlier on in my career, just when they started getting some viewership, of responding to the trolls, you know what I mean? But, you know, my friends, my brother especially, is like, you know, you can't feed those trolls, you know, because, it'll never end. And luckily, people in my community came to my defense, you know what I mean? Did you watch the video? You know, it was 1 minute of 12. He's providing a whole lot of value, because I had people like, where's the added value? Where's this? You know what I mean? And that's my biggest concern, is like, I'm not just going to push a product without adding value. I'm explaining something. You know, yes, they're sponsoring a video. You know, yes, you're getting payment of some form or another. But that's for your time, you know what I mean? And it's like, you're still trying to add value. You're still trying to tell people about a product or service that has helped you. You know what I mean? At least that's what I try to do with my sponsorships. I try to do some, at least integrate something that I personally use, or I think is going to be useful to other filmmakers, you know? I think there is, an integrity to uphold, and that's different for everybody, you know? But, you can't hate on people who are using sponsors to build their channel, to promote themselves, you know?
You definitely can, man, because it really gives us, as creators, as YouTubers, the ability to do that, to grow this channel, to grow our community, to be able to give value to other things. I've put out over 300 videos on my channel, wow, which is a lot of videos. It's a lot of videos. It's a lot of videos.
I haven't hit the 100 mark yet.
Well, you know what I think is amazing is that you have less than 100 videos out, and you have over 3,000 subscribers, right?
3.7.
Okay, so you're almost at 4,000.
Yeah.
Do you understand like what that is? That's pretty crazy.
So it's like, it's tough, because I'm very thankful for the following that I have been able to generate on the small amount of videos that I put out. And we've talked about this before the podcast and everything. I'm working on my consistency, and it's hard with the new, being a new dad this year and everything like that. Yeah, it is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm super thankful for that. I don't take it for granted, but I also see the potential in like, hey, just step it up a little bit more. Imagine where that can go. Everybody says make 100 videos, and then, you know what I mean, then you're really getting started. So I'm really trying to push for that 100 video mark.
I saw your channel early on when I think you were under 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Me and you were like very close.
Oh, we were. Yeah, we were neck and neck at one point.
Neck and neck at one point. And I remember seeing your content, and I was like, holy shit, like the quality. Like, you made me realize, like, okay, I got to step up my quality. Like, no, seriously. Like, I was like, I watched one of your videos. I think it was the Sigma FP video. And it was the first video that you had that really, like, popped.
That was the first one.
And I was like, man, like, okay. Like, he must have shot this for more than a day. I thought, right?
Yeah.
So, like, how much time did you put into that video?
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, that was one where it's like, I was just coming back after a long time. Again, I take these like giant breaks. I brought my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera back in 2019, started making a lot of videos, and then just kind of fell off, got uninspired, was going to take a trip to Thailand, needed a small everyday carry, but didn't want the run-of-the-mill, didn't want to spend a lot of money, and didn't want the camera that everyone's going to get. I found the Sigma FP, which I had never heard of, and I loved it so much, it kind of like made such an impact on me that I had to tell people about it. It was the first time in my life where I literally had to tell people about a product, and so I decided to make a review, but every time I sat down to record it, there were more things I wanted to say. So you saw in that video, I was in my living room, I was in the bedroom, I was, you know what I mean? I was in all these different locations, because that was the natural progression of the video. Like, I would discover something about the camera that I wanted to tell people about, I record something about it, and then the video kind of just evolved from there. So all in all, I think, I spent maybe 50, 60 hours on that thing.
Oh my God,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, it's just like, you know how it is when it's like I reshot a lot of stuff, because then, by the time I was like, okay, that intro needs to be redone now, you know what I mean? I was focusing on making this thing not about efficiency, not about process, not about getting this thing done by any certain, I was focused on making it the best video I could possibly make it, something that I could feel good about. And I remember finishing it, and this still happens to me this day, the night before posting it, didn't want to do it. Like, this video is stupid. Like, I think, it's like, I don't think anybody's going to care about what I'm about to say. I'll just never post it.
That's crazy.
I still do that. I still do that. The night before I'll release something, I don't know, there's this voice in me. It's just like, no one's going to care about this. Like, nobody wants to hear your opinion, blah, 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 blah. And now I come to expect it, and I kind of just like, okay, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, I push it down, and I press publish. But I remember I sat on that video for days and then published it. And, it got a couple hundred views here and there, and then boom, it's 10,000, 15,000. And I remember, it hit 22. I'd never seen views like that before. And the fact that, because I was 100% honest, you know what I mean? Everything that was said was mine. No sponsor, nothing. And that, people picked up on that. That resonated with people. And I think it was from then on that I knew what I needed to do with my channel. I knew what made me feel good as a creator. And, even though I still feel that way sometimes, I know that it's just a natural reaction. I know that beyond that is there's people out there that the content will resonate with.
One thing that I will say, man, is that like YouTube is so funny. Sometimes the things that you think are going to do so well crash and burn.
Right.
And then there's things where you just throw it out there and then it blows up. And it's like, I've had so many ups and downs, and I've realized that YouTube is one of those things that like you can't get too hung up on.
Right.
Like you can't think about a video too much. You can't like post something and be so reliant on like the performance of the video and like allow yourself to actually be affected by the views. Now I put out videos and I don't give a shit whether it's 100,000 or 1,000 views.
Right.
I'm still gonna make the next video.
Yep.
I still have the next one scheduled and another script in the tank and like ready to go, because I've realized that it's not about the views. It's not about the views at all. Because while there could be a video that you hit 100,000 views on, there might be a video that hits 1,000 views that really resonates with a few people that come back to you and go, hey man, thank you so much for that video. I don't know how it got 1,000 views, but I just want to say thank you. And when I really break it down, like when we really break it down at the end of all of this shit, what's YouTube for? YouTube is for connecting with community.
Yeah.
YouTube is for connecting with the few people that really need your help or your expertise or your vision or whatever it is to help them. I don't know about you, but I have certain YouTubers that I watch that seriously changed the way I do things. Yeah. And I'm like, you know, whether it got a lot of views or not, like I don't give a shit about your views. Like, you made me better. Yeah. So for that, I say thank you, and I'm loyal to you no matter what.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think YouTube is so awesome in that sense. But I wanted to ask you, like, what were you doing? Because like there's always this moment where like you look at your phone and it's like, oh my God, 1,000 views, 2,000 views, 5,000 views, 10,000 views. This holy shit, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like what's happening? But talk to me. What was the thought process in that like whole journey of like, because that was your first big video that popped off, right?
And it was, I think the moment that really hit me was that Sigma reached out to me. One of the marketing team was like, saw your video, loved it. They literally just emailed me to say thanks for making such a great video, reposted the video on Sigma of America's Instagram account. And that's, for me, I was just like, I was blown away. I remember being at work, seeing it. My wife works at the same place that I do, busting into her office. She was in the middle of a meeting. And just, you know, she could see the excitement on my face. And my brother was calling me because he's a big fan of mine. You know, he's a freelancer photographer and videographer himself. He was watching it more than I was, just seeing it, like texting me every 1,000 views that got added onto it, just seeing that thing take off. And it's happened on a couple other videos too, you know, and to your point, like the things that you don't think are gonna take off. I did a video on media management. That's my most freaking watched video to date.
Oh yeah, I can't believe it.
You know what I mean?
I can't believe it.
But, and it's like, it's just such a wild, but it also teaches you not to focus on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wanted to ask you the same questions because I remember, you know, I've followed your, you know, like you said, we've been following each other for a long time. I remember when your video started taking off. I remember that Oppenheimer video. What was that like for you, man? Remember, it's like,
honestly, you know, it's so funny, man. I knew that video was gonna be successful. Yeah. That was one of the ones where it's like, I had purpose, and it's so funny because I made that video in less than 24 hours. I scripted it, I shot it,
it's perfectly
edited it.
Timed too.
Yeah, and it was just like, I don't know what happened, but I was in the shower and I got the idea. I was like, you know, because I was reading up on the camera and I was like, IMAX is like the equivalent to like 18K or whatever. And I was like, that's insane. Like imagine shooting on something like that. Imagine shooting 65. So I'm in the shower and I'm like, what if I just put this thumbnail, a mystery camera, arrow coming down on it, and it's like 18K resolution. What? Like, this is crazy. And then Oppenheimer right next to it. And I thought about that idea of the thumbnail first.
Dude, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because one thing I admire about you more than anything else is your thumbnail game, man. Like, and I've seen that change.
My thumbnail game?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
That's crazy.
Your thumbnails are next level, man. I was like, and honestly, like one of my favorite videos of yours is think like a cinematographer, not a videographer.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that's another one that's very successful for you, but that's successful for you. That honestly is my favorite video, not only for the thumbnail. I think the thumbnail is eye-catching and grabbing and just intense. And
I want to talk to you about that thumbnail in a second.
Jumps out at you, but the content itself. And it's like, it's not even like unlike the Oppenheimer one, which is very topical, you like you said, you knew that was gonna pop off. Like the videographer one seemingly would have gotten buried in the sea of people talking about cinematic video, but it's like the insights are so good. You know what I mean? They're so pure and they're so like duh, but it's like you relay them in such an interesting and entertaining way. The dissection of the Barbie shots and from one portion of the film to the next, like I was blown away by it. But yeah, the thumbnail game, man. Like, how do you go about thinking about those things?
You know, it's interesting. I spent the first year of YouTube sucking so bad, like so bad, and getting beat so bad. Like I think I had one video the first year of YouTube over 4,000 views, and it was so gut wrenching. Yeah. Have you've seen my Montana video, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Remember I commented on it because I liked that one, and I think you said something about like you think you left some on the table or the edit or something like that, and yeah.
I spent on that video, you have no idea how long I spent on that video, like weeks editing that video because I had so much, you know, we went to Montana, we shot a job out there, but then we also did a ton of hiking and I spent so much time on that. I was like, dude, I'm going to be the next Sam Colder. Like this video is going to hit so hard. It was good though, man. I tried so hard on that video and I put it out and it got crickets. Yeah. And I was like like my heart hurt. And I was like, man, okay, like something's got to change. Like, so I started, you know, I went deep down the rabbit hole of like, okay, I need to go to YouTube University for YouTube. Like I need to learn how YouTube works because I'm obviously not doing something right. And I started researching how like people would spend more time thinking about the thumbnail and the title than the actual video editing and the production of the video itself. Because if the concept, the title, and the thumbnail is good, well, then you have yourself a winner no matter what. As long as the content, your content needs to be good no matter what. Right. Like, do not even come here if your content isn't good. And especially for filmmaking, like it has to be good because everybody's a filmmaker. Yeah. Everybody's a critic. When you fucking make a filmmaking video, they're gonna look at that and be like, oh, there was a frame drop here.
Yeah. Credibility lost.
Instantly. Like you son of a bitch, like one frame drop and I'm terrible, right? Yeah. But anyways, so I'm like, okay, well, now it's time for me to start thinking about my thumbnails. Well, at the time, like the first year of YouTube, I was strictly making videos on documentaries because that's what I do. That's what I know how to do. That's what I'm really good at. You know what I mean? Like I would say my two biggest strengths in filmmaking is editing and making documentaries. I swear to God, I can make a documentary about anything. Yeah. So to me, I was like, I'm just going to focus on that because I want to do that. And I feel like I could make a course and be able to really help people. I feel like that's really my strong suit. Dude, I spent the first year making documentary videos and they just tanked one right after the next. Tank. And I'm looking at Mark Bone and I'm like, dude, how the hell is this guy so successful making documentary style videos and talking about strictly documentary content and they're getting like hundreds of thousands of views? Meanwhile, like I feel like my videos and the things that I'm saying are just as good, but they're tanking. And I'm like, okay, man, like time to switch shit up. Like, especially my brother. Do you know my brother?
I know of. No, yeah, like he's in the video game space, right?
He does YouTube content, strictly just YouTube now, which I'm so proud of him, man. Like he's the one who really got me into YouTube.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and his channel is called The Comeback Kids. Me and him worked together. He was an editor for me for like years. And you know, he developed as an editor. He's a very, very good editor. So when he started doing his content, he just stands up and above the rest because he just does incredible content. But in any case, he comes to me and he gives me a call one day and he's like, yo, I just saw the video that you just dropped. Amazing content, but dude, honestly, it's time to abandon the documentary stuff. Like it's time, dude. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are you doing right now? Like talk about something that someone actually cares about. Nobody cares about this documentary stuff. And like my brother's real with me. Like he'll be straight up like,
but that's sometimes what you need, man.
That's sometimes what you need. And he's like, do you feel happy about 500 views? Like really, do you feel happy? Like what are you going to do with your life? Like you feel happy about 500 views? He's like, your content can change filmmaking if you just switch your topic. I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm switching my topic, man. Let's try this thing. I made a video on a camera. I made a video on the Ursa 12K. Here we're going to talk about, we're going to jump into topics, thumbnails, and all this shit. First time where I tried, like, don't give the whole video away in the title and the thumbnail.
Right.
Make them ask a question and make them want to know why.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, I was like, I want to say that this camera is better than all the other cameras, but nobody's talking about it. That's the concept. How do we say this? How do we say that this camera is better than this? I thought to myself, I was like, what if you put a Red camera and a Sony camera? This is like the most two popular cinema cameras. Put them right next to each other, X them out.
Yeah, I remember that thumbnail. Yeah,
X them
See,
out.
that's how good that thumbnail was, is because I can see it. I remember that thumbnail you're talking about, right?
That's what I'm talking about. That is exactly what I wanted. So I was like, okay, put the blacked out camera, put a question mark. It's just better.
Yeah.
It's just, this camera is just better. What camera is just better?
Right.
It's better than Sony and Red. It's just better than those two cameras. This is the most interesting.
Click.
I have to know, bro. 50,000 plus views.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
Now, here's something that I didn't know. When you get a ton of views on camera gear,
Right.
here we go. Here's your next problem. You ready?
Yeah.
Now you're attracting nothing but people that want to watch gear
Yep.
related videos.
And that's who the algorithm's serving your videos to.
Exactly. Now, when you make a video, well, if you make another gear video, and my brother told me, he called me, he goes, stop everything that you're doing right now, make another gear video. I'm like, bro, I really don't want to. I hate it. I hate it. I don't really want to do it. I want to make it. He goes, if you make another documentary video, bro, I'm fucking giving up on you. And he clicks and he hangs up the phone. And I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. I make another gear video, it breaks 10,000 views. And again, mind you, I never had anything break over 4,000 views.
Right.
And I'm like, holy shit, okay, this is what we have to do. But what was it like making this Sigma FP video? And then what was the video that you made next? And then how did you think that affected your channel?
Prior to the Sigma FP video, because I'd never really done an official gear review video either, you know what I mean? And I kind of did the opposite of what you did. I went straight back to what I had done previously, which was a lot of kind of like experimental film, like montage videos, voiceover, stuff like that. Basically like cinematography showcases. I'd either take a lens, pair it with a camera, and just do it like a slideshow. The next video I came out with, so I went to Thailand with that camera. I filmed a whole bunch of content.
Beautiful video, by the way.
And there's so much content I haven't used, which I actually kind of want to just go back and do like almost a time capsule series where I really highlight all the places I've been. I made a Thailand video, but I really tried to elevate it because I was like, look, I've done these type of videos in the past. So I used some philosophy quotes from Alan Watts. You know, I really tailored the music so that it had a kind of a story in its progression. It did pretty well, you know what I mean? It got a few thousand views, but it didn't. Nothing has gotten really back to the level of the Sigma FP video beyond my media management video. I guess the most successful videos I do are kind of like tutorial or like tool-based videos. I did another Sigma FP basics video where I go over SlimRaw, the compression software. That did very well. I think it's upward close to 20K sitting there, and people still reach out to me about that video and how useful it is. From the Sigma FP video, the next video I did, it's kind of soul crushing. You know what I mean? When you're like, okay, now, like the next video I make,
Things have changed.
they must, all those people watch that. Why wouldn't I get the same amount of views? Or, it's like, and then I think I came out with a color grading video after that Thailand video. That got more views than the Thailand video. And I think that one is still getting some of my highest views on a monthly basis because it provides so much value. So I'm like, sharing my color grading technique has become one of my favorite things to do, and I'm still kind of playing around with the format and the way in which
color grading is fantastic.
Oh, thank you, man. And it's like that's something I learned from YouTube. I'm learning at the same time I'm teaching, and I'm going to come out. The next video I'm going to come out with is another color grading one, explaining the process I went through for that last Helios video. I've simplified my process so much. It's like down to a couple nodes. And that's another video, the thing I love about YouTube is you can share your journey, but like the stuff you learn, man. I started with like, I got to do 20 nodes and like do all these effects and stuff like that. It's like, nah, you can keep it simple. And that applies to so many different avenues of content creation. I'm learning still to not care about the views. You know what I mean? To know that some videos will do well, some videos might not do as well, but also to try to focus it and really trying to give people, the value that they want, like helping them get better at what they're doing, whether that's sharing a tool with them, showing them my color grading method, reviewing a piece of gear that I love.
Oh, can I give you, before I forget, I wanted to tell you something. One thing that I subscribe to is creator hooks. Have you ever heard of creator hooks?
No.
Okay. My brother turned me on to them.
Okay.
They give you, every Monday, they give you like 7 or 8 different YouTube titles that did really well, and they break down why. And it's like a newsletter. And that was pretty game changing to me in terms of like the psychology behind it. Because by the way, YouTube and like thumbnails and stuff like that, it's all marketing.
Right.
You have to have kind of like a marketing brain and understand why people would click on something.
Yep.
And to your point where you just said, like, you were like, oh, I thought that, like, you know, I had this video pop off and then like, obviously like maybe more people are going to start watching my videos. And that's not the case. I have over 40,000 subscribers. I put out a video a couple weeks ago that didn't even break 2,000 views.
Right.
How is that possible? Yeah. In my mind, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, if you're at 40 plus thousand subscribers, you're going to be at least cranking out videos that are breaking 10,000 views each video, right?
Yeah, right.
No, that's not how this game works. Yeah. Like, you have to understand your audience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And to your point, like my most successful video, the video on media management, that was one of the videos I thought more about the thumbnail and title than any other video.
It shows, by the way.
And it's like the way I approached it, right? Because it's a video about media management. Like, what more of a boring title? Like,
can't get more boring.
Yeah, can you get? But I'm like, look, the reason I do this is so I don't have to keep buying hard drives. I don't want to keep spending money. I'd rather be spending that money on gear, right? So the hook was that. And thumbnail, pile of drives. Stop buying drives. You know what I mean? I think.
By the way, you know, I took that idea and I actually made it for. I had a Ugreen sponsorship. They sent out a NAS system, which by the way is awesome. Not to plug this shit or anything like that.
I've been wanting to get a NAS system, and I still have a stack of drives on my, desk.
And I was like, you know, when I got a NAS system, it kind of changed things in the sense of like how I thought about that whole process.
Yeah.
And I was like, I used your thumbnail as inspiration for what I did. And I was like, well, it freaking worked for Dylan.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it work for me?
Yeah.
Do you think it worked for me, Dylan? You think it worked?
Did it?
No, it didn't work for me, Dylan. It was a tank.
I was like, I haven't seen that video.
Yeah, that's why. Because it didn't freaking work for me. But it's funny. What's funny about it is that for your channel, that worked amazingly. For my channel, it tanked. I've copied other people before on thumbnail and titles. Don't act like you haven't done it. I don't even look at me right now. Don't act like you haven't done it. I swear to you, I know that you've done it. Okay, I've copied We've all done it. I've copied other people's thumbnail and titles before, and they tank, and I don't understand why until I really thought about it and I started breaking it down, and I really pay attention to the psychology of YouTube and what people are doing. What works for your channel doesn't work for somebody else's, and what works for theirs does not work for yours.
Right.
That is a fact, okay? So if you think that copying somebody is going to work for you, it's not. It's not going to work for you, okay? So I find it extremely interesting that it's like, and if I'm going to give anybody a tip, it's pay attention to what's working on your channel.
Right.
Really pay attention. Really look at the analytics. Really look at, and I'm curious, what is your most, in terms of view duration, what is your highest view durated? What is your highest view duration on a video?
I think it's the Sigma FP Basics video. And even though, you know, it's like, because, and this is something I paid attention to in the last videos too, getting into it, making the first minute the most engaging possibly of the whole thing, and also kind of delivering on the thumbnail and title as soon as possible. Because I think people, especially, you know, with attention spans, and you're not going to get everybody because, you know, sometimes you don't want the people with the attention spans that are like that long. Getting to the point, but also just like providing value every second, like not like reducing the fluff. You know what I mean? And it's odd because that Sigma FP review, I think that's, people drop off on that like pretty fast. You know what I mean? Because it is a longer video, but like I meander a long time before I get to the meat. I think it's like 4 or 5 minutes into the video before I start talking about the camera.
Yeah, but damn, it's so entertaining, bro.
But analytics is something I need to pay more attention to, especially things like click-through rate.
There's been times where I put out videos just to test something where like I'm not really even too worried about like what it's going to do. I just want to see if that thumbnail is going to work. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
I think I'm still trying to figure it out. But one thing that I will say, you brought up that shoot like a cinematographer, not a videographer. So straight up, the title was taken from Luke Forsyth. You know who?
I know. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
He put out a video that got like almost 1 million views, and it was like the most basic thumbnail I've ever seen in my life. It's him in the woods, isolated. You could barely tell what the hell is going on. No writing, no text on it or whatever. It just says shoot like a cinematographer or not a videographer. Yeah. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, wait, are you?
That just, everything we're talking about is like, and then I see thumbnails like that. No text, nothing. It's just maybe it's even a frame from the video itself. You know what I mean?
I almost wanted to email him and be like, hey man, like, I'm offended. Like, did you even try on this thumbnail?
Right.
I wanted to ask you really quick, how do you deal with trolls? How do you deal with people that comment on your videos and that just rip you to shreds?
At first I would get really bent out of shape by reading those comments. And you always tell yourself, you know what I mean? You're just going to ignore the negative comments. But you can't appreciate the good ones. At least it's really hard to appreciate the good ones and not let the bad ones affect you in a similar manner. More often than not, I don't respond. You know what I mean? Because I'm there for positivity. You know what I mean? I'm there to inspire people. I'm there to make a positive impact, to help people. And so when people respond saying that they were inspired or they were helped or they found something useful, I appreciate that. You know what I mean? Or if people have insight and better ways to do things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm out there trying to learn just like everybody else too. So like, I think there's a way to provide criticism and alternative points of view. And I appreciate that. You know what I mean? I always do. But the people who are out there actively trying to cut you down and like make you feel bad or make you feel like you're less than or your content's not good enough for any one reason or another, they don't really deserve a discourse, let alone a response. So I don't feed the trolls. I try not to.
For the most part, I do too. I don't engage, but there are times where I'm like, okay, I'm about to rip you to shreds right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm about to rip you to shreds. And I've done it a couple of times. It's probably not the best thing to do because then you start this ongoing kind of thing.
Yeah.
If I don't really like a company or I don't really like a brand or I don't really like the way somebody's doing something on YouTube or as a content creator or whatever, I'm never gonna fuel with negativity, dude.
Right.
Like, why? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, YouTube should be a place where people feel free enough to not only have the freedom to say what they want to do and help out and do whatever, but let's come back down to the basics of what YouTube is. It's a free platform where we're all benefiting from.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? We're really going to put out this negativity and this bullshit to the world? Like,
it's a cliche, but it's like, why say something? Like, don't say anything if you don't have something good to say, don't say anything at all. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's exactly what you said. Like, why do it? You know what I mean? We're all here to learn.
Yeah.
Like, why tear somebody down when you can build somebody up?
I agree. I agree with that 100%. That's always been my motto for everything in my life. And one thing that I want to say is that you made a comment on, like, there's a way to go about it. I get comments sometimes where people, like, actually add value.
Right.
And I'm like I like it. I heart it. I'm like, you know what? Thank you for this comment.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is an awesome comment. And I pin it to the top. And I'm like, I want people to see this because you're teaching me something, but then also, like, I don't want people to get misinformed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that people are learning and actually getting value out of this stuff. And I'll be the first one to say it. Like, I am no expert at any one thing. I am still learning. We are all still learning together. Yeah. I'm sure even the best of the best are still learning things. You know, I think I saw something of, like, with Greg Fraser talking about, I believe it was, what was the movie that he shot that FX3 with?
Creator.
The Creator.
Yeah.
Okay. He was talking about that and he was like, you know, he started going into some details of some things, but he even admitted, he was like, if I'm going to answer those really highly technical questions, I'd have to defer to somebody who really knows it. And it's like, you know, as YouTubers and content creators and / filmmakers, we're looking at him like a god. Like, if he says something, dude, that's the word. You know what I mean? Yeah. But even he is like, there's somebody that knows something more than me. So it's like, let's all take a second, man, and just like really remember that we're all in this shit together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's again, I hate to keep bringing up the agency, but it's true. It's like, that's the beauty of this agency. What I love about it is that like me and you can sit here and we are not in competition. As a matter of fact, I want you to do as well as you possibly can. I want you to get 1 million subscribers. I want you to have the most views. Why? Because all that's going to do is benefit the community.
Yeah.
That's all it's going to do. If you're better, I can learn from you. You're going to share your knowledge. You're going to, and that's what's great about the agency is that now we're in this shit together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not a competition anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, and another thing is that like, what's great about it is that you bring a brand to the table. Well, now everybody just benefited. I bring a brand to the table and a brand that I'm working with, everybody else just benefited.
Yeah.
So it's like we want everyone to get bigger and stronger and better and faster and all of this stuff because we all are benefiting from it. So it's almost like now we're rooting for each other instead of competing with each other.
Yeah. And it brings back to the team thing. You know, it's like what we were just talking about. We're all not experts. We all don't know everything. I mean, that's the cornerstone of being on a team. It's like accepting what you don't know, leaning on others to fill in the gaps and make the whole stronger. You know what I mean? And I think, yeah, that's why I'm excited about being part of this agency. You know, more people I see that you guys are signing, like you said, that's just another tool in the tool set. You know what I mean? That's just another knife in the sheath.
I know, man, and I'm incredibly excited. It's actually happening. Everything's happening a lot quicker than I thought. Actually, we're signing people left and right. We just signed Kyle White. You were just telling me that
big fan.
You're a big fan of, and I thought to myself, I was like, how amazing would it be if you and him got a chance to work together?
Yeah, I mean, that would be unreal. Like, you know, it's like, but it's such a small world too, because, you know, Kyle White's somebody I discovered, you know, several months back. He had made a video about flying halfway across the world, making a music video in like a weekend. And, you know, I connected, and that's the thing I love about YouTube. You can comment on a video, they'll comment right back. You know what I mean? You can connect with people like that, and they're real, genuine connections because these people are, everybody's the same, right? I love when my content resonates with people. Big, small, doesn't matter. You know, a person could have 1,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers. I think obviously when the 50,000 subscriber, you know, the big people comment on the video, that's a different feeling. But it's like when your content hits, with no matter who it hits with, it means something. So he comes from South Africa. He's halfway across the world. Like what other business or what other scenario would we be able to possibly work together? Like it's mind-boggling. Yeah.
Is there anything that you're working on? Is there anything that you want to try to accomplish in the next like year or so? Like what do you have your sights set on right now?
So for me, I mean, consistency is one big thing. Finding a balance between my personal life, my family, and content creation, but really making content creation a priority over this next year. But also trying new things. You know, we were talking a lot about it. Like the last video I did, the second to last video I did, the Frame Set sponsorship, that was the first time I talked about filmmaking. I talked about people I admired. I talked about Bradford Young. I talked about the movie Arrival. I talked about other cinematographers.
How did you like Arrival?
Arrival was, so Denis, man, I mean, like, he's just an unbelievable director, and he's just unbelievable at science fiction. Arrival is one of my favorite science fiction films just because of how different of a science fiction film it is. And it's one of those films, without spoiling it, you know, once you watch it for the first time, you kind of have to go right back to the beginning and watch it again. Mm-hmm. And like the way that film's crafted from the very beginning, from the first things you see, those flashbacks with her and her daughter, and then, you know, her walking in a circle around the hallway, you know, before the film begins. It's all
intentional.
It's all intentional. All this huge significance, all the way down to how the film is lit. You know, how the composition, the editing, the music in that film, the score. I mean, like, that's a different level of filmmaking. And I think Denis is obviously not the only one that makes films on that level, but those are the films that, like we talked about Dune, how inspiring films like those are. What I'm excited to do this year on my channel is to talk more about films like that, talk more about things that inspire me.
Have you ever seen this YouTuber called Jake Frew?
Is he the guy with the mustache?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, he's so good. And
so original.
He's not only original, but it's like what he uses to actually make his stuff is like so minimal.
Yeah.
Like he uses, I think, like an FX3 sometimes a tripod, a couple of different lenses, and then like a couple of little lights. Not even this elaborate setup that we have in the like right now for this podcast. It's probably more than he ever uses.
Right.
And the amount of content, like the quality of content that he makes, is like what?
Yeah.
Did you just do right now? Like,
Dude, that reminds me of Blaine Westrop. Do you know him?
No.
Like, he doesn't light his videos. And he made a video the other week on intention and explained why he doesn't. He was like, the purpose of this is to be quick and efficient. To your point, just like Jake Frew, it's like, he doesn't do it. He can, you know what I mean? Like, he's got the chops because he'll do these videos where he's going on big shoots. He's a commercial cinematographer, and he knows how to light. But for a lot of his videos, he doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? He leans into AI tools like, audio enhancement and stuff like that, because it helps get the job done. You know what I mean?
And that's why, like, I want to tell people, one thing that I want to really stress on the channel this year is like, whatever limitation you think you have, it's not really there.
Right.
Because you can make incredible content with so little. It's funny because I'm in a weird place right now where it's like I want to show that, but I also want to get better as a director and a filmmaker. So I want to build out that big crew and that big thing, like we talked about, the team, and get better at that. But I also don't want people to be discouraged by seeing that and say like, well, I can't produce this because I don't have a big team. That's not the case at all, man. Like you can make incredible content with very little. Like you don't need much. You need a camera, maybe one light.
You know what I mean?
You don't even need, dude, you need a phone. You need a phone, and you need to understand lighting, and you're good. You're off to the
your earlier
races.
point, it's better investing in a computer. You know what I mean? And it's a two-edged sword, right? Like what you say, it's like at the one end, you want to get better at filmmaking, the thing, right? But, it's very true. Like, you don't need lights. Again, I bring it back to my most successful video, the media management one. No lights used in that A-roll. I sat in front of a window. You know what I mean? Like, because I was off the cuff. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to film a video. Like, it's grayed out. I have there's nice soft light coming through here. You don't need light. Like, and then you look at all the other videos that you spent hours setting up the light and background, and it's like, that doesn't even look as good as that. But that's a whole new type of frustrating. But you know what I mean? But to your point, it's like, both are true.
And you know what? There's so many of these lights. Have you seen like those little Zhiyun lights?
Yeah.
They're freaking powerful, dude.
I know, man.
And they're tiny. And like
the lights are like cameras now. It's like that with this LED technology, they're just like so much is available at such a cheaper, lower price point now. I got into Godox a few years ago just because who has money for aperture when you're just, struggling to pay bills and shit like that. Godox SL60W, that thing was my workhorse for a long time. And now I moved into the Amaran line. Like, I love those things, man.
Yeah. They're awesome. Aperture is releasing these Infinimats. You saw that?
No.
You haven't seen the Infinimats?
No. Oh, they like roll out LED panels or something like that?
It's an LED panel, but it comes with like this, it's almost like a balloon, you know what I mean? That you inflate in like a minute or like 60 seconds.
So it's like a lantern?
Yeah, but it's like the size of this. It's like an 8x.
Wow.
And it's up and ready to go in like, 60 seconds or like 2 minutes or something. And then it's super bright, super powerful, RGB. Like, I'm like, this is the future. And we're in the future of filmmaking right now, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they did a demonstration at NAB where, like, in jeopardy of sounding like an idiot right now, there's something that you could do because, the new wave is like the LED panel technology to use as like backdrops and replace green screens and stuff like that. So they've figured out a way to create the lighting that the most natural lighting from that environment onto the LED panel using like a computer, and you could place it to where like it's in the it uses the frame to light.
That's wild.
And I'm like,
so you can move it, and then it's adjusting its light source for its relative position in the scene, based on the digital background and the virtual environment. That's
like what? I was like, this is the future. And at Aperture, and they called it out too. Like for a second, I was like, oh shit, I gotta learn this. I was like, oh man, I have to understand how to learn this. It's like a big hurdle. They're like,
what do you think about the whole virtual filmmaking?
I can't wait.
Space, and it's like because it's here, and it's like those tools are developing faster than anything, but it's like I find it hard I struggle to keep up, even with the AI editing tools and all that stuff. It's like, how do you keep up?
I should be going as hard on that as possible because that is the future.
Right.
And the virtual backgrounds I really want to dive into because that to me opens up a whole new door of possibilities. Yeah. Like, how much do one of those things cost? How do we get one?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because that to me is like, now we could be anywhere. Mm-hmm. Now we could just do a set around this and shoot on that. Like most of Batman, I believe, was shot with that.
Yes. Those rooftop scenes where they have a perfect Chicago skyline, like where, Batman and Catwoman were standing out on the top of the building next to this all fake background.
Have you dived deep into like AI and all that stuff?
Not really. You know what I mean? I fucked around with Midjourney for a little bit, which was super fun. And then, but as far as the tools are considered, I'm really starting to get serious about it because in Resolve, they got Relight now. They have object removal just like they have in Photoshop. And now with, I'm sure you saw it at NAB, like with Adobe integrating all these AI tools right into Premiere, the speech enhancement, the frame extensions, like the object replacement. Like, I just want to know how it works. You know what I mean? I feel like, I jump back into these programs with all these tools. It's like editing's not even the same anymore. So I do want to stay up on it. I do love it's like, I feel like, they're only useful to a point. I feel like in some ways they're taking the need to learn certain skills away. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you have an AI cutting up your interview and doing all that work for you, then how do you get your chops better and know how to use your eye critically when analyzing content? If you've had a machine do all of that grunt work for you. I think I learned the most as an editor, being an assistant editor, just whittling down hours of footage. You know what I mean? Physically getting to know the program and becoming fast at it, but also like using my brain, you know what I mean? To problem solve. So even like that lighting thing you were discussing, it's like, is there a danger that we forego learning the skills or the theory behind these skills, in lieu of just something that does it automatically for us?
I think that we definitely are, but just like with anything, I think that there will be a whole new set of skills that we end up having to adapt to. But I think that like we have no choice because the world is moving in that direction anyway. Yeah. However, I will say like there's things in an interview, little details where you're watching it and I don't know if AI is ever going to be able to replace that.
Right.
In the sense of like, there's been interviews where I'm like, this is like he said something just now that's completely off topic, but can be used in this scenario. I wonder, I'm curious to see where AI goes. Like maybe you can do that. Maybe there's a way to do that. Maybe it learns how you edit.
Right.
And then it starts to figure out what you want and it could cut all that grunt work out. But I do agree with you in the sense of like that grunt work makes you good.
Yeah.
You cut your teeth on that, but I've never touched the film camera. Have you ever touched the film camera?
Back in film school and back when I was a teenager, I went to a film camp. We shot on 16 millimeter.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, those couple times. I edited on like the 16 millimeter film on the flat bed Steinbeck. I mean, that was a great experience. Cutting, taping, all of that stuff. I still have the reel.
See, what's interesting is that like I'm sure at one point or another they looked at that and they were like, wait, you're going to completely cut that process out?
Right.
Like, we're going to completely cut out the process of actually cutting film?
Yep.
And now we're just going to do everything digitally? Like, what does that mean?
Yep.
Now the cameras are turning digital? Now this is turning... So I can imagine that this is like that new frontier again where...
That's a very good point.
We better get with it. Like, especially me and you, because I'm in my 30s and now you're 40, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we better not mess around. Like, we better get on it because there's these kids, like the agency just signed this kid that's freaking 17 years old. That little bastard's coming for us.
Right.
David,
You know what I mean?
I know you're coming for us, buddy.
And he's putting out 2 videos a week using all these freaking tools, man.
Seriously, man. And it's just like...
That's a good point, though. It's like Walter Murch, I don't know if you read the book, In the Blink of an Eye. It's a very good book on video editing. Walter Murch is regarded as one of the greatest video editors that's ever lived. Cold Mountain, The Conversation, The Godfather. So he's seen it go from film to digital. He was one of the first users of Avid and all that stuff. And he's like, look, nothing's changed. This just made it easier. You know what I mean? Like before, in order to know what I had to go back to the closet, look at the films. And now, bins, That term bins came from having all these freaking
Bins.
strips of films
Yeah.
in bins. Like, so you go back to the day 3 bin, A roll, and then someone would be like, shh, oh yeah, you do have 3 more frames of that. You know what I mean? Now we can do that in a second. What would take people hours
to do.
Yeah.
And now I think about it and I'm like, I'm such a spoiled little brat because I'm sitting here being like, well, I can't make a film because I don't have a nice camera. Shut up.
Yeah.
Get up and go make a film because let me tell you something. These people had to actually like,
Yes. Yeah.
hold up, we get everything.
Yeah.
The film, we're running out of film. Hurry,
Yeah.
get the shot. Have you seen Babylon?
The one by the guy who did.
La La Land.
Yes, I haven't seen it.
Brad Pitt is in it.
I heard it's like a fantastic spectacle. It was a huge flop, but it was like I heard it was like a crazy.
I
fucking
can't
film.
believe it flopped.
It was too expensive apparently.
Dude, I'm like pissed at people because like
It is. It makes no sense.
Some of my favorite films have flopped
Yeah.
in the box office, and I'm like,
Look at Blade Runner 2049, man. Fucking people hated that film.
I don't know how people hated that
fucking
film.
perfect.
I look at it and I'm like, again, that was one of those things. I was in the theater. By the way, I went with Mary to the theater. That she was sitting next to me. She was like, "It's so loud. I can't hear anything." I was like, "Baby, what are you?
Calm
fuck,
down.
Just listen. Cover your ears, man. What are we like? We're watching a masterpiece at play right
Yeah.
now." But to me, I don't understand why that movie flopped. A lot of people didn't like Arrival. I don't understand that either.
Too slow.
Too slow, I guess. I
I'm
don't
not
know,
paying
man.
attention either, though. You know what I mean? It's like
But the freaking like the attention span that we have
Yeah.
now is so frustrating. It's like if a scene takes more than 3 seconds,
Yeah.
they're out.
Yeah.
They're out. Any kind of like slow push-in shot where like something is really happening and it's big,
Yeah.
but you have to think about it.
Yeah.
They're done. Nobody wants to that anymore. But anyways, what was I saying?
Babel.
Oh, Babylon.
Yeah.
Babylon.
Babylon.
Okay, it's a filmmaker's movie.
yeah.
Like if you watch the movie, it's like what these people had to do to make this film. This is crazy. Like the guy was sweating in the box because they had to get the audio right and everybody had to be so quiet and the audio had to be right there and they had only a little bit of film and they had to get the shot. They're yelling at each other and everybody's crying and like it's please watch that movie.
Oh, I'm gonna check it out.
Please watch that. It's a filmmaker's movie. Like you will understand. And then they pay like homage to like all the early film days. At the end of the film that like gave me chills and inspired me like as a filmmaker to like, you know, this is what we do, man. You know, like this
Yeah.
is the beauty of it, and where it's going is
That's
exciting.
the legacy we're part of.
Yeah, man, and it's just like it's a beautiful thing, man. It really is. Just talking about AI and everything like that. A lot of people hate it. Some people love it. What's your take on it?
Right. So there are situations where it will save you, or at least if you know about these tools and you run into an issue in production, knowing about these tools can help you too, because you're like, you know what? This seems like an impossible solve right now. I know if we take this into the editing program, we're going to be able to solve that. The client's going to be happy, or we're going to fix our problem.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about it. Okay, we had a really bad audio situation here. I know we're going to be okay because the audio AI enhancement tools are going to fucking take that right out. You know what I mean? And it's like, it frees you up to worry about other problems that you would otherwise like, and that, you know how it is when you're on set. If you like feel bad about something the first part of the day, oh, the lighting wasn't right, or I messed up, I think I messed up the audio there, that can domino into a whole bunch of other mistakes. That can kill the vibe on the set, that can halt your progress. So I think there is potential with these AI tools to improve our workflows in great ways. But I also think, like we've been saying, like, you know, it's a two-edged sword, so like you can become dependent on those things too.
I'm trying to dive into that stuff. I feel like I don't know if you get the same problem. Is that like I'm always working on something, so for me to stop my workflow and stop what I'm doing to learn something new is very tough because it's like means that I'm gonna hold everything else back a couple of days or a week or a month or whatever it is. But we have to eventually do it. And like, you know, I don't know if you know this, but I get ripped all the time for not using DaVinci, especially for being a Black Magic user. Keep telling myself I'm going to go to DaVinci. When I was at NAB, I ran into Justin Porter. Justin Porter comes up to me and he's like, one of the first questions he asked me is like, yo, do you use Premiere or DaVinci? Justin Porter rips me so hard about using Premiere and it went viral on freaking, it goes viral on Instagram. So I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I mean, at some point I got to use DaVinci, but also Another thing is that like, coming back to like, sometimes less is more. And if you're really good at something and you really know how to use it, at the end of the day, the most important thing is storytelling.
It's just a tool,
It's just
man.
a tool, and it's just storytelling.
Yeah.
Can you tell a good story? And how do you tell that story? How you get there doesn't really matter as much as the finished product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You make a good point, though. It's like, at the end of the day, it is just a tool. And I made the switch over to DaVinci Resolve around 2019, 2020. It was long and hard, right? Because I've been using Premiere for a long time. Before that was Final Cut, though. All that matters is the one that works best for you.
One thing that I wanted to ask you and one thing that I wanted to dive into is like, how do you feel about giving yourself permission to be creative? Because as creators, our job is to create, and our job is to be creative. Our job is to produce content. Our job is to do X, Y, and Z. At what point do you say like, okay, I'm giving myself the freedom to be creative, and no matter what comes out of this, no matter what happens with this, I'm going to allow myself to do this? I personally struggle a lot with that.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me because it's like, if I'm not making money from it, it's like, well...
Yeah. It's like what you just said, right? It's like, in order for us to learn about these new tools, we have to take time away from making the thing, right? And time is so precious. So it's like, being creative when you're trying to make it as a content creator is also kind of one of those things because, and I did it on my last video, like to come back after a semi-long hiatus over the last 8-9 months, very sporadic video creation, I had to do something for me. You know what I mean? I had to do something that I felt strongly about, that I was inspired to make. So for me, that's doing something artsy, being creative in my own way. But then now that gives me the fuel to go back and grind, you know what I mean? To go back and do the videos that I know I need to make, to add more value, round out, try new things. So I think it's something you have to do regularly, you know what I mean? But you have to, in order to keep going, and everybody's different, you know what I mean? Maybe that's, some people need to do that more often to keep going. And maybe, someone like yourself needs to do that every once in a while, just to remind themselves why they're doing this in the first place. Why? Because we didn't all get into this to review gear and make videos about techniques and theory. We do this to tell stories. And honestly, like, I think you should get back to those docs because I loved those. You know what I mean? And when you said you can make a doc about anything, I believe you, because you were making, in what I saw as top tier level documentary content about going on a freelance job. You know what I mean? Like, I was there with you in those, when the drone wouldn't work. And then, in the hotel room trying to make it work, feeling the pressure of making it work for that job the next day. Like, I was there, man. And like, you know what I mean? And so like, I think going back to what you're passionate about, it's a necessity. It's now the cadence in which you do it, that's up to everybody. Can't completely cut it out.
I agree 100%. I have this struggle where I'm like, I'm trying to start a family myself. I'm trying to buy a house in South Florida, which, dude, is like, if you don't have $1 million, you're not buying a decent house, period. And I'm trying to do all of these things. And I'm like, well, in between all of this, I'm like, when's the last time I've made something just for me?
Yeah.
Not because it's going to get me a view, not because it's a sponsored video, not because it's going to further my career, but it's actually that thing inside of me that's like, it needs to come out.
Yeah.
Like that artistic thing that like, this is the reason why I do this. This is it. And it's been a struggle for me to balance that, because I'm like, I almost feel guilty. I don't know if you feel that. Like, I almost feel like this guilt of like...
Guilt for not doing it, or you would feel guilty for doing it?
Guilty for doing it. Like, you're going to waste this time right now?
Right.
And especially you, like, you have a kid now.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. Like, how do you balance being a father, having a job, and then also a YouTube channel where you're trying to build and create on?
The dilemma is paralyzing in a lot of ways, because for exactly the reason that you point out, like when I do have the time, right? Like my days start early, after she goes to bed, me and my wife spend some time together, and before you know it, we're ready to hit the sack, And so it's usually a couple hours that I have where my attention span is still there, where my drive, because I'm not an end of the day type of person, you know what I mean? I most want to do stuff first thing in the morning, and guess what? I have to go to work. You know what I mean? I have to work from 9 to 6, and it's in the same type of field that I'm in. So it's like, and so when I do get those couple hours of free time and I'm wondering what to spend it on, that's where I get paralyzed. Because do I do it on a video that I know I need to do to help grow this channel and grow YouTube as a business, as a way of life? Because my goal is to eventually do this full time one day. But the thing that I want to do at that time more than anything is to just express myself. You know what I mean? And that's something creative or something that doesn't necessarily grow the channel or move the needle forward. So I end up doing nothing. You know what I mean? So I either playing games, I'm a big gamer, so I would go to the easy route, and I think that's the struggle I have. But also now realizing that no matter what, just doing something in terms of creation, whether it's for me or it's always valuable. Not attaching that value to it, that's the stage that I'm at, just showing up every day or trying to show up more often to create, no matter what it is. That's a win for me right now. Being able to express myself.
By the way, I loved that video. If you guys get a chance to go watch his latest YouTube video, it really is a special video. I loved it. What was the name of it again?
This lens saved my life. Well, it's how the Helios 44-2 got me out of my creative slump.
You delivered on that video. It's not so much a review as much as it is like it's inspiring.
Yeah.
Because I saw the video and I was like, damn, like,
I appreciate that, man.
That's content that I would like to make too. It was just beautiful, man. It was inspiring. It was nice. It was great.
Thank you.
How's it doing on views wise?
It's all right. You know what I mean? I think it's the fourth out of my last 10.
Not bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and again, this was one, didn't really care. You know what I mean?
It's not about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I needed to get this out to break the cycle, and learned a lot, like I always freaking do. People are starting to, just putting one video out starts to get the community talking again, starts to get the gears moving again. Just got to keep following up.
I'm very curious to see where your next videos start taking shape and where you start to find yourself. And I feel like we kind of signed you at a perfect time, because I feel like you want to get back into this, you want to start doing this. And I feel like if you start, and I tell creators this all the time, like the second this starts making you a little bit of money, and you could actually start taking home some sort of income, it starts to become more realistic.
Right.
Like I couldn't really take YouTube full on seriously until at least I was making $1,000 a month.
Right.
If I'm not making $1,000 a month on this, then it's still a hobby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, let's come back down to reality for a second. You want to be able to do YouTube full time.
Yeah.
And then that's going to open up doors creatively for you that is going to be able to, you're going to be able to do so many different things with that.
Right.
So what's the first step? The first step is you got to draw some sort of income from it. But also you have to stay true to yourself, and you got to stay true to your creative self.
Yeah.
And be able to do that. So I think that coming on to this agency is a perfect time for you. I think that if we could start to allow you to make more money and free up that mental space of like, well, is this just a hobby? Is it realistic that I do it? Dude, it is, bro. It is. And if you guys haven't seen his channel and what he's doing, you have to go check that out, because he is a special creator, and I believe in him. I've always believed in him. And the fact that now he's on this trajectory, watch, he's coming.
I've had a blast. Thank you again for inviting me, and thank you for bringing me onto the team. I'm super excited about being part of this thing. I'm seeing it growing fast. I'm so excited to work with you and all the other people you started to bring on board. I can't wait to see where it goes, and it's incredibly inspiring, and I'm humbled to be a part of it.